I have no idea if this is going to work, but you know, let's give it a go. Everyone started at the same time and there were only bats. What? What is up everyone? How are you all doing? As you might have figured out already, this episode is about adding enemy waves to our game. There will be a few hiccups along the way, but nothing that we can't fix. Sometimes I get tunnel vision and makes mistakes, but it does create some funny bugs and problems though. But enough of the intro, let's get into the episode. To get our wave system to work properly, we're gonna need a few things. We're gonna need the amount of enemies in each wave. We will need a certain order that we pre-design or pre-select when they should come. We will also need what type of enemy each enemy should be, how long delay between each enemy, as well as what's the time between each wave. And we will need a timer that starts when the last enemy in each wave is dead. And also for our sake, we will also display the current wave and also how many enemies that's still in the current wave. So I don't think we will be able to fix all of this in just one video, but we sure is going to start, so let's get into it. And there are a few ways we can do this, but first off we're gonna need a few classes, two to begin with. And the first one will be a wave class that holds all the information about the current wave, and there will be many waves, so we will have a list of waves in a WaveManger. So we're gonna start with a wave, but we don't have a good package for it in our list here. So we're going to create a new package called events, because a wave is kinda like an event, so that's good enough. And in case we do add other events later, we have a package for it. So let's go ahead and create that class, wave. And this is actually my second take on recording this, because I found out that the way I did it first was a lot more difficult, not difficult, but more complicated and a lot of unnecessary code. So the wave will not hold a list of enemies. Well, technically it will, but the wave will hold a list of integers that represent a type of enemy. And later on, when this wave is active, it loops in the enemy manager and goes to the next integer in that list and then creates an enemy from that integer. So the wave doesn't actually hold enemies, it holds the enemy type in a list. So it's much easier. So we create the constructor first, public wave, and this wave will have a input of array list integer enemy list. So it's a list of enemies, but it's in types or integers. So this integer, we can copy that, or we can copy this entire section. Private, like so, and then this dot enemy list equals enemy list. We will also need a getter for that. So public, gonna copy this, goes faster, get enemy list, return enemy list. And I don't think we're gonna work more in the wave class for now. We will most likely do it a little bit later, but let's leave the wave class for now and go to our managers package and add a WaveManger, like so. And let's create the constructor first, public. And this WaveManger needs to talk to the playing class, I think, but I'm pretty sure, so let's just add it, playing. And this dot playing equals playing, like so. Then we need to import the class so we don't have any errors. Save, and he's happy. And this WaveManger needs a array list of waves called waves, and equals new array list. So, and we need to import that class and import that class. Sweet. And just like the wave class, this one needs a public, a getter for our waves, get waves, return waves. So we have that out of the way. But here it gets a little bit tricky knowing what we need next. But we will need a create waves method, some way of creating all these waves. First, we're going to create them in the code like here. Later on, we're going to add some way of creating waves in our editor, but that's another video when we are done here. So let's begin by just working in here. And we just going to add a wave, and then we're going to see what we need next. It's easier to just start and then solve whatever you're lacking step by step. So waves.add new wave, like so. And this one needs a list of integers, and we could, do it like so, which isn't too complicated. And actually, I think we're going to do it. So yeah, just make a new array list, because that's what it needs. And it's going to be of integer. And we initialize it right here by typing something like array as list. Then we give it the content. So in this case, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 10. Yeah. So now we have 9 orcs and 1 bat. So let's just keep it at 1 wave for now. But in our enemy manager, or rather we need to go to our playing first. Playing. All right, so here we need to create a wave manager. Wave manager, not like so. We import that class, we copy this. We don't. Then we say wave manager equals new wave manager this. And now with this one created, we also need to get a getter. So public wave manager get wave manager return wave manager. And this one is not supposed to be at the bottom, right here above our key pressed, because at the bottom you usually have the getters and setters, the ones methods you don't really need to mess with a lot. So that's why we keep them at the bottom and more used methods at the top. But now we have the getter, and in our enemy manager, we add enemies here. We can probably still use this method. Let's see, we just give it a type and we get the start positions, which makes a lot of sense. We don't need to know about them. We already set them in our editor. So all we really need to do is to remove these. Let's comment them out. We probably need to go to our update method right here. And in this one, we should add a method that calls the wave manager to spawn a new enemy if it's time for a new enemy. Let's just add a if is time for new enemy. We're just gonna start with 1 wave, so is time for new enemy. If it is, then spawn enemy. And let's create this boolean first and then this method. And this boolean is going to check with the wave manager if it's time for new enemy. So all the values and timings for waves and enemies are kept in the wave manager. So the enemy manager is only asking, is it time? If it is, all right, then we spawn. So if playing.get wave manager dot is time for new enemy. If that's the case, then we return it. So create method in here in our wave manager. We're going to need some sort of timer, but in the last episode we didn't use any timers for our slow effect, so we're just going to use the same method like we did there. So we're going to add a integer called enemy spawn tick. We're also going to add a enemy spawn tick limit equals, let's add an enemy every second. So let's go 60 times 1. This stands for second, even though 60 and 60 times 1 is the same. But if you want to change it to 5 seconds, we can just change that one. So that's gonna be much easier. And our enemy spawn tick equals enemy spawn tick limit. So it's gonna spawn an enemy right away. And here we have return enemy spawn tick is less than or equal or more than enemy spawn tick limit, meaning it's reached that level now, so spawn it. And we actually going to need a update here. I see private void update, not private obviously, public void update enemy spawn tick plus plus only if enemy spawn tick is less than enemy spawn tick limit. So we're checking if it reaches 60, then it's more or equal to this one, so it remains at 60. It doesn't update that one. So first we check for is it time, that might return true or false. And if this method is true, then we obviously need to spawn an enemy, but we need to return the current, or rather we need to return the next enemy to be spawned, which is going to require a public int get next enemy. And all this does is we need a integer up here for that. So private int enemy index. We need to return it, so waves dot get 0. Let's add another one, so wave index, because we're on the what wave we are on. It could be different waves. And then we say get me that list, enemy list, and also get me the next enemy, which will be enemy index, and then we increment it by 1. And with this we return it. We're going to need a smart way of detecting if we reach the end of this enemy list. And of course we could add a lot of methods to do that, but trying to figure out if there is a smarter way to do this with as little code as possible. You know what, let's make it as easy as possible. So at the bottom we add a public boolean. Is there more enemies in wave? And it's going to return waves dot get wave index dot get enemy list dot size. So it's going to return size, but we're not going to return size, but we can check whether or not enemy index is less than waves. If the size is 5 and this is 4, it's going to return true. So we actually need to add one or remove one. So let's say that enemy index plus 1 is less than the wave size. So if this is 4 and this is 5, then we return false. I think that's all we need for now. And yeah, so let's take a look at our enemy manager. If it is time for a new enemy, then we check whether or not playing dot get WaveManger dot is there more enemies in wave, and if there is, then return true. First we're checking if it's time, between the enemies spawning. Then we're checking, is there more enemies in this wave to be spawned? If that's the case, it returns true. And let's see where we had it. There, and then we say spawn enemy. So then we call add enemy. and we go playing dot get WaveManger dot get next enemy. And I have no idea if this is going to work, but you know, let's give it a go. It started, so that's a good sign. And started. So everyone started at the same time and there were only bats. What is going on? Well, the game didn't crash. We only got bats for some reason, and I think we first need to actually call the update method that we had. In here we say update WaveManger. Add a method for that, but instead of having it all printed out there, we have it in this method. So playing.getWaveManger.update. That's going to work, but if we do use getNextEnemy, we first need to say enemy spawn tick equals 0. So we need to reset it somewhere. And we do it in the getNextEnemy when we return the next enemy. So let's give this a try. I think we're still going to only get bats for some stupid reason, but the delay works. They're moving. It doesn't crash. We're halfway there. So let's figure out why we only get bats. Well, I'm a little bit tired, but nothing is broken. We do give it values here. And for some reason, I thought 1 was equal to orc. But take a look at our constant. Orc is 0. So we do return. So we do spawn the correct ones. But now for some reason we don't get the knight. But let's fix this one first. Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think this is 10. 3, 6, 9, 1. Yeah, that's 10. But let's try to figure out why we don't get the last one different. So we should have gotten a knight, right? Yeah, we should have gotten a knight, but we didn't. We only got bats and we got only 9. And after taking a look at this for a while, it's nothing that's wrong in the code. It's just my math is completely off. And here we check for current index plus 1. But the reason why I had this check is so that we don't get a out of bound error. But we only increase enemy index after we have spawned the enemy. So this plus 1 is completely unnecessary. So this should return true now when the index is 1 from the size. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and now a bat. It's working. Perfect. Finally. It's always the smallest problems that takes the longest amount of time to find. So yeah, our first wave is working perfectly. And what we need to do now is to work on adding more than just one wave and also everything that goes in between. But that, my friends, will be in the next episode. Thanks for watching this one, and I hope that you found some of it useful. If you did, smash that like button and also subscribe. You don't want to miss the follow-up. But until the next episode, take care now, and I hope to see you in the next one as well. Bye.